Well, I want to welcome each and every one of you to a new series that we're starting over the next few weeks. We're going to celebrate this series entitled Encounters, where we're going to talk about encounters real people had with Jesus. And a lot of times as you're building up to Easter, you might hear messages about the stations or steps that Jesus took to the cross, maybe these major moments that happened on the way to Easter. I've shared messages on the statements that Jesus made from the cross, but I just felt impressed this year that we would have a time together to really celebrate Easter, not just in a few weeks, but for the next few weeks, we could celebrate what happened at the resurrection and the power that's available to us. I want to give you this thought. There's more power available in what happened at the resurrection and the death of Christ than maybe you're accessing in your real and everyday life. In fact, the Bible tells us the same power that raised Christ from the dead is living inside of us. So we're going to look at these. You may not know this. We're going to look at not just encounters that Jesus had in his 3.5 years in his earthly ministry and healings and things that we could study. We're going to actually look at encounters with the resurrected Jesus. So before Jesus went to heaven, there were real people that encountered him in his post-resurrected state. And we're going to look at some of those stories, and there's one place where several of these amazing encounters are contained, and that's Luke chapter 24. So if you have Luke chapter 24, you can turn there. We're going to be there for the next few weeks. And I know it seems like Christmas just happened, but life is moving on. And Easter is coming in just a few weeks. And I want to look at some of these post-resurrection stories of Jesus and the encounters that people had. And I want to welcome all those at our McKinney campus. I want to welcome our Hazlitt campus. I got to be with all of you a few weeks ago. Some amazing people a part of the Hazlitt campus. Maybe some of you listening online or watching this message later. Would all of you here at Keller welcome your church family that are here with us this weekend. We're glad you're joining in with us. It's just been a rich week for me. I want to show you this specific story in Luke 24, but I also want you to know that Jesus is moving in the earth today. He didn't just move hundreds and thousands of years ago. Jesus is moving today. It's just been an amazing weekend. Just all the baptisms, and at our 9:00 service here at Keller, I got to get in the baptismal tank, and the story that you heard from Griffin. I'll tell you a little bit more about it, but I got to be personally connected to that story. I got to baptize Griffin, and then I got to baptize a couple of kids of friends of mine in the church that I've watched grow up. Their daughter, who was adopted, I was there when she came into the family, and just it just always impacts me too, just seeing Ty and his father-in-law and his son. It's just impactful to watch the power of God moving among real people today. We're going to study out of the Bible Jesus showing up in people's lives, but I just want to encourage maybe somebody this weekend, he's still moving. He's still moving among us and I want to thank you because I get to meet these people and the impact that you all are having on these people's lives and the way that you're sharing and you're generous and you're loving. I just want to, on behalf of these people that I meet, say thank you to you for being the loving, generous people that you are, because together it's not us, but it's Jesus in the midst of us. Really, we're seeing God do amazing things in the lives of people. Can we just give Jesus a round of applause today? Because he's moving. I also want to tell you about Serve Day, because I want to say to every person at every campus, there's online opportunities. This is one of those things that I want all of you to participate in. The church is the most resource-rich environment on the planet. You may not know this, but people sitting right around you at wherever you're listening from, there's people there that you might be amazed at what they do every day, the gifts they have, the talents, the grace that they have. It's just amazing. And when we mobilize all that, it causes Jesus to be more famous in a powerful way. And so this is not only just a day. A lot of you will sign up and serve day, which is coming up on Saturday. You can sign up at the tables. You can sign up with the QR code. And I want to just say to you too, you're like, well, I'm too busy. Hey, if we're too busy to all come together and serve, we're just too busy. So just say no to something else, because I'll give you a money back guarantee that when you serve somebody else, you're going to sense the presence of Jesus in a way that you don't experience just going about your normal everyday life. There's just something about when we serve as he did, when we serve others as he serves us, we experience his presence in a unique way. So I'm calling on you. I'm pleading with you. I'm double dog daring you to just serve somebody this week. It's going to be an amazing week. We've already had some projects already. I got a chance to go to a single mom's house already this weekend that her small group came together. Single mom, her daughter, she became a single mom when her daughter was just a few months old. And I have just a burden for single moms. I got to go to her house, this small group. I'm talking, like, I realize that we can easily look at things in the world today and think things are dark. I just want to give you a perspective. There are Jesus-loving, Jesus-centered people in the earth today that are showing the love and the light of Jesus. And they're not usually the ones talking, they're the ones living it. And I showed up at this house filled with these amazing people that were in this small group for a single mom named Terry, and they've spent their week remodeling her kitchen, helping her fix up her backyard, doing her, and let me tell you what Serve Day's about. Let me tell you what the power that we experience about is really about. It's Jesus moving in people like Cody. I met Cody at this Serve Day project, and Cody showed up he had a 45-minute job to fix a fireplace, and the people that were working on the floors had left the job undone, and they didn't know if they could get it done on time. So Cody said, I just put floors in at my house. He went back and got his tools, and he spent till 2 a.m. putting in Terry's floors in her house. That's it's people like Cody that are making a difference in the world today. And it was such an honor to meet him. It was just an honor to see those people loving. I got a chance to honor Terry and tell her daughter actually last summer died of an overdose. And she's just been going through a challenging time. And I just got a chance to honor her for not backing up and isolating or going into bad things herself. She's pressed into the family of God and the people of God. And she's a real hero. And I can't wait to tell you the whole story because it's amazing. And we're going to tell you several stories like this. So let's all rally together this week, Saturday. Let's make a difference for Jesus because it's Serve Day and it's Serve Week. Easter's coming up. Thank you guys for here at the Keller campus choosing non-optimal times. And let's all just begin to pray now. And let's just begin the celebration now, thinking about the risen Jesus, that he's alive today and he wants to impact the lives of people. I want to show you from Luke 24, there's this initial encounter that some women have when they go to the tomb of Jesus. Jesus, different than every other religious figure, you have to remember there's all these religious figures and there's these religious ideologies. Jesus is totally different. All of these religious leaders, they gave a set of tenets and they had a set of parameters and they laid those out. Many times people can't figure out what they are. And there's a grave that has bones in it. And a lot of people say, well, I'm not very religious. That's not the goal. Jesus didn't come to create another man-made religion. Jesus said, you religiously can't ever be good enough to meet the standard of perfection. So I'm actually going to do something totally different, not tell you to do something to meet my standards. I'm coming down to where you live. And I'm coming as one of you, and I'm going to live the life you could never live so you can have a life that you never could have earned and you don't deserve. So he comes and lives among us, and he dies a brutal death on the cross. And Jesus is different than other religious leaders in that in Luke 24, there's this experiential connection and relationship of everyday people that encounter him, yes, before the resurrection, but they encounter him afterwards. And at every campus, and people listening online, I have one goal this weekend, that you'd leave with more passion. That if the fire has gone out, that you would relight it maybe this weekend. If you've never had the fire, I pray that you would get it. Because when you encounter Jesus, you don't go on with business as usual. You don't go, well, that was a good service. Where are we eating lunch? When you meet the real Jesus, you are changed and transformed from the inside out. And there begins to be this entirely different perspective you have on the world. See, we are a collection of experiences. That's why this series is called Encounters, because it's a personal, relational, experiential Jesus, not an idol, not a theory, not an ideology, not a religion, but a connection to a real person. His name is Jesus. Experiences impact us. For instance, you can show a postcard of a beach, or you can go to the beach. My wife likes the beach, I like the mountains. So you could show me a postcard of a beach, and I may have been there because she drugged me there, not necessarily because I wanted to go there. But looking at a postcard of the beach and putting your toes in the sand. Any beach people listening to me this weekend? All right, it's coming, all right? The weather's warming up. And you can put your toes in the sand. We're a collection of experiences, though. There's a difference in going to the beach. There's a difference in going to the mountains. I remember going to Alaska. It was the first time I went to Alaska. I love the outdoors. Spent 2 weeks in like remote territory with wild animals, had a satellite phone. And I remember going there going, I feel different. Why? It was like I went back in time to this untouched, this non-tampered with world. I thought I'd like translated into a different world. And the experiences are that way. I had a cool experience this week. Sunday night, last week, we had a special wedding. It was really kind of a family wedding. Betsy, who was leading worship, Tyron, who preached here a few weeks ago, they moved here with us to start the church, and their youngest daughter got married, and she married a young man who's been raised up here, and they're both called to ministry. It's an amazing thing, and we had this wedding, and I put on, my preacher suit, and we went there, and we're getting ready, though. It's not just about the formality of the wedding. Like Tyron, we were trying to tell Tyron, Pastor Tyron, dude, you need to prepare yourself. And now Tyron is not the most extrovertedly emotional person that you've ever met. But you do want him if you get in a fight. I just want y'all to know that. So if I get in a fight, I'm bringing Tyron, and we're going to win, So he's kind of like, bro, I mean, what, Well, all of us, several of us, we've been together 25 years. Like we're all sitting there kind of celebrating the moment and watching Tyron with the first dance with his daughter. He was melting down, baby. Let me just tell you, the rock was melting down. But I was looking at it not through the lens of just what Tyron was experiencing. I was looking at it through the lens of when I actually did the same thing with my oldest daughter, and I'll never forget it. I walked out there thinking, I'm fine, this is great. And she started with these words, Daddy, Daddy, you did this, and daddy talk. And I'm trying to do the junior high sway, and my knees, I'm like, I'm going down. And so when you've experienced something, you relate to it different. It's no longer just head knowledge. Like I didn't read a book about doing this with my oldest daughter. I did it. So when I watched Tyron step on the floor, like he's in trouble. I know what's already going to happen because I've experienced it. And I want you to know it's the same way with Jesus. Jesus is a Jesus to be experienced. It's not just the knowledge of Jesus. It's not just that I know somebody who knows somebody who knows Jesus. It's I know Jesus. I've experienced him. And that's what is being conveyed to us from the scriptures. And the story will show that it ignites a fire and a passion in these couple of guys. Before we get to the couple of guys, though, there are these women who go to the tomb. They go to put spices on the body, which was a customary action that would happen at a death. And they go to the tomb. And when they get to the tomb, you know, again, the general outlook of most people at this time is they're fairly downcast and depressed. And they're kind of like, what just happened? I mean, this is a big event that's happened in Jerusalem. Like, there's people talking about it. Jesus has died, and these people we're looking at, these are followers, and some are friends. These are people, they're like, our friend is gone, our rabbi, our teacher, our Messiah. Like, wasn't he supposed to fix everything? Where did he go? And they're just kind of a little bit disillusioned, and that's where these women are when they go to the tomb, and they go to it to put the spices, but there's no stone in front of the tomb. And they get there, and this is wild, get this. 2 angels appear. And these 2 angels appear and say, why are you looking for the living among the dead? He is not here. He has risen just as he said that he would, because Jesus is alive today. He rose from the dead. No other religious figure can claim that. He's an alive Jesus. And so they are amazed. I love the phrase that happened in their encounter. It says, when the angels were speaking, they remembered his words. So they had experientially encountered his words. Now they're practically living the reality that confirms what he said. And that's what happens in an experiential Jesus. Your Bible no longer becomes just words. They become words that you experience because Jesus is real in your life. They remembered his words. Luke, by the way, is a doctor, so all these details matter. And the fact that he's highlighting these women and their testimony, you may not know this is very important, because a woman's testimony at this time would not be legally binding in court. So he's elevating women. He's actually showing the reality of the fact that people and hundreds of people saw this Jesus and confirmed the testimony is really a powerful thing. John brings out the emotion of it. Like John talks about Mary. She goes to the tomb, she's crying. She thinks then when this person appears, it's the gardener, until the gardener calls her by name. They go back, they tell the disciples. In fact, when they came back from that tomb, they told all these things to the 11 and all the others. Over the next few weeks, we're going to look at how these encounters impacted people's lives experientially. And it made me think about 1 Corinthians 15:14. If Christ has not been raised, there was a group of people who said, well, he didn't really raise from the dead because he wasn't really dead. He sort of passed out, this and that. So the resurrection is so central to a relationship with Jesus. And there were people there trying to say it didn't happen. And Paul refutes that and says, if it didn't happen, our preaching is useless, and so is your faith. Your faith has no meaning. It has no power. And I hope even in this series that you'll connect with Jesus in such a way that you'll experience when the Bible says the same power that raised Jesus from the dead is living on the inside of me. It goes on to say all these events happen with Jesus' crucifixion, and it goes on to show us there's 2 guys on a road outside of Jerusalem, and they encounter Jesus. It says that they are a little bit downcast. They're a little bit depressed. And, I still see how a real Jesus has the ability to convey hope and to lift spirits like nothing else can. I'll take you back to me seeing it this week, just going to that single mom, going to Terry's house. I not only met Cody, I met another lady named Ashley. And Ashley came up to me. It's so sincere. It was so powerful. And before we showed Terry everything, Ashley told me she's been going through a difficult time. Her mom has a spinal surgery. Her mom is currently walking through paralysis. And she said it's been a tough time. But when I heard about Terry, she didn't know her. She's like, I just felt a quickening that I should serve her. I just should help her. And she went and got the letters that her daughter had wrote her from rehab before she overdosed. And she put them in a box on a frame. And she carefully and meticulously picked all the perfect letters that had her name. Because she said, I want you as the mom to remember her name. And when you're sitting here watching TV, you're thinking about her. And we want to continue to say her name so you remember. And it was so much genuineness and so much thought. And her and Ashley, they went and they hugged each other. And I was watching them and the love they were conveying. And the way Jesus, when he comes into our lives, he brings something that nothing else can bring. That's what happens to these two guys. It says on that same day, two of them went going into a village called Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem. So they're outside of town. They were talking with each other about everything that had happened. As they talked and discussed these things with each other, Jesus just came up and walked along with them. I just love that about Jesus. He doesn't make us come to him. We're walking through everyday life. We never know or really understand how Jesus is ahead of us in our journey. And he just comes up and starts walking with them. There he is. He's just walking beside them. And they were kept from recognizing him. And he asked them, what are you guys talking about? What are y'all discussing as you walk alone? They stood still, their faces downcast. One of them, named Cleopas, began to ask him. They say to Jesus, are you the only one visiting Jerusalem who doesn't know the things that have happened there in these days? They're like asking Jesus, have you been living under a rock? There's like some big stuff been going on. And I love Jesus's deal here. I just love it, So, if I were Jesus, I'd be like, what do you mean, do I know? You mean, do I know like when I was in the garden sweating blood? No. Do you mean like when they stripped me naked and beat me and put me on the cross? No. Like at what point do you think? That's why I'm not Jesus, right? Jesus just plays dumb, which is a good parenting technique too, by the way. You just be like, tell me more. My daughter Lauren the other day, she had a car problem, I said, it's the battery. No, Dad, it's the battery. So then she rocks slow and tries everything else and then calls me a few days later. She goes, Dad, I took it to the shop, but it was the battery. Tell me more. What things? They say, about Jesus of Nazareth, they replied, he was a prophet, powerful in word and deed before God and all the people. The chief priests and our rulers handed him over to be sentenced to death, and they crucified him. But we had hoped. Look at this now. Why are they missing it? They said, we had hoped that he was the one who was going to redeem Israel. We thought he was going to overthrow the government. You know why a lot of people miss Jesus? Because they want a Jesus that they are designing into their story instead of the Jesus who is the one writing your story. And so we have, it's got to happen this way or that. Oh, that looks different. That feels different. That's different than how I grew up. Jesus many times does it different than how you think he should do it. They thought he was going to overthrow Rome. Actually, he's going to use Rome to spread the gospel. And so he says, they asked this question of him, Jesus of Nazareth. We had hoped that he was the one who was going to redeem Israel. And what is more, it is the third day since all this took place. In addition, some of our women amazed us. They went to the tomb early this morning but didn't find his body. They came and told us that they had seen a vision of angels who had said he was alive. Then some of our companions went to the tomb. They found it just as the women had said, but they did not see Jesus. And Jesus said to them, how foolish you are, How slow to believe all that the prophets have spoken. Did not the Messiah have to suffer these things, then enter his glory? And then Jesus begins with Moses, which really means the first of the Bible, the Torah, all the prophets. Some of you may or may not know this, but I don't have time to walk you through it. But all of the prophecies of Jesus as Messiah, Jesus fulfilled every one of them to a T. And at the opportune, right time, he enters our world. He takes them back. He shows them all of that. He shows that he's the good shepherd, that he's the suffering servant, that he's the Messiah. He walks them through it, explained to them what was said in all these scriptures concerning themselves. And as they approached the village to which they were going, Jesus continued on as if he were going further. I like this too. Jesus enters our world, but I love this too. Sometimes he comes without invitation, but he comes at a greater degree based on our response and desire for him. Notice Jesus is like, hey, I'll just keep going. But they urged him strongly, stay with us. Can I encourage you with something this week? If you were to just say, hey, Jesus, I just want to spend a little more time with you this morning. You know, experiences at the mountains or the beach are predicated upon getting on airplanes and planning and paying for travel. Jesus is always ready to spend a little more time with you. He's always ready to show up. Jesus, won't you just stay with me just a little bit more? He says, gladly. Gladly, I'd like to be. He said, stay with us, for it is nearly evening. The day is almost over. So he went in to stay with them. And when he was at the table with them, he took bread, he gave thanks, he broke it, and began to give it to them. Then their eyes were opened, and they recognized him. Notice this. There's a revelatory part of knowing Jesus. I've worked with atheists, agnostics, led people to Christ. I'm connected to some of these stories. I mean, I saw a guy at our Keller campus on Saturday night who came out. He said when Milestone was very right there launching, I got a chance to pray with him to receive Christ in his classroom as a teacher 22 years ago. He came Saturday night, came with his own son, and he said, I'm so glad to see that you're still as excited about Jesus 22 years later as you were back when you led me to Christ. Friends, let me just tell you, Jesus wants to be real to you, not in a moment, but over a lifetime. He wants to continue to show up with his goodness. And what I've seen in working with people is we can have persuasive words. We can try to get the right answers. But there is this supernatural thing that Jesus opens people's eyes. They recognized him. Look at this. And he disappeared from their sight. And this is the theme verse that I want you to circle in your Bible. I want you to highlight at every campus. I want you to circle this. Were not our hearts burning within us while he talked with us on the road and he opened the scriptures to us? There is something about when you have that experiential encounter with Jesus where it just means more, it looks different, and the whole thing is transformative. They got up and returned at once to Jerusalem. There they found the 11, those with them assembled together and saying, it is true. Notice too, there's a response. When you encounter Jesus, you don't rock along as business as usual. Every time in the Bible, when I see people encounter Jesus, there's this response. And a lot of times it is, you want to go tell somebody. Isn't it amazing when you have a great experience or a family experience or a trip, you just want to tell somebody, and a lot of times it feels like words fall short. You're like, you can't imagine. I love when my kids go off to like youth camp. They encounter God and they come back and you're like, sometimes they're so overwhelmed it's hard to articulate what they've experienced. But one thing that happens when you've had a real encounter with Jesus is there's an urge and a desire on the inside of you to share that Jesus with somebody, and anybody wants to listen. I want them to know. That's what they did. It's true. The Lord is risen. He's appeared to Simon. Then the two told what had happened on the way and how Jesus was recognized by them when he broke the bread. I'm talking about encounter. I'm talking about, did our hearts not burn within us? I'm not talking about cerebral, rote religion. I'm talking about an experiential Jesus that you begin to experience. I love it. I love the story of Griffin. I got a chance to baptize him this weekend. I love that story because I was a part of, there were several of us sharing Jesus with Braden. I remember Braden's questions. He had no idea. He had not experienced any of this. He did not know. This was not, I'm rededicating my rededicator. He didn't know anything about anything. And I remember talking with him and interacting with him. And then I remember when I came in the gym one day and he's like, you won't believe what happened. Griffin came up to me and said, can I get water baptized like you? I was like, Braden, what'd you do? He said, well, I took him in the office. I told him, you got to pray the salvation prayer. I said, Braden, how do you know what that is? Did you remember it when you prayed it? He's like, so I'm just trying to make sure he didn't give, some kind of false prayer. I mean, the guy could not even be saved. He could be, who knows what he could have joined. I'm like, we got to quality control here a little bit. And he said, well, I looked up salvation prayer. I'm like, show it to me. He's like, what's this? I said, okay, we're good. I think the guy's going to heaven, okay? I just want to make sure that we didn't have some false prayer. But you know what I love about that? What I love about it is Braden didn't have to know every theological proposition or Christian argument known to man. All he needed to know was, this Jesus changed my life, he can change yours as well. There's something so beautiful about that. Something so pure and beautiful about that. Can I tell you, when I've been to Terry's house, when I see a small group serving others, when I see a Cody going the extra mile, when I see a Braden leading this guy to Christ, here's my week and here's this story. I am reignited with excitement and passion about the simplicity that is devotion to Jesus Christ. I want to just offer it to you. Maybe you've lost your fire because the stuff you're focused on doesn't have much heat. Maybe you've lost your fire because you've been drugged kind of out into making the main thing something that's not the main thing. And maybe if you were to get back to the simplicity that is Jesus Christ, that you might let him explain the scriptures to you, that he might come into your house and be with you, you might reignite your passion as well. Here's what I see in this encounter that I see in a lot of encounters. I see a pattern that happens. There's a pattern in these encounters. We get discouraged. Because why? We seek after that which cannot satisfy the human soul. So the person who seeks something other than Jesus eventually ends up lacking because nothing can satisfy your soul like Jesus. It's all temporary. But here's what I love about Jesus. He doesn't leave us in our discouragement and our disillusionment and our distraction. He seeks after us. So he comes looking for us. Then we encounter him because he is a risen Jesus. We can expect to actually experience him, not just know about him. But then he reveals himself to us. Remember what I said. He takes those scales from our eyes. He shows his word to us. But when we experience him, not just know about him, but know him, it ignites a passion on the inside of us. Here's a second thing that I see about this encounter. And what we're going to see in all these post-resurrection encounters is it's a personal experience. Like, it's a personal experience. Like, it's not your grandmother's faith. It's not some spiritual leader's faith. It's not somebody you know that knows that they know somebody that knows. No, it's about you experiencing. These stories in the Bible are not there just to tell us those people's stories, but to inspire us to that same living Jesus we can experience personally ourselves. Talking about the wedding, where we were talking about Tyron and the beautiful dance and all of that, something else happened at that wedding. This is my week. At that wedding, I met Tony and I met Nancy at the wedding. I did the wedding. I'm standing around and Tony and Nancy come up to me. And they are so excited about their newfound faith. And I want to share with you because they were telling me about how amazing you are. And they moved here from Chicago to be close to family. Some of their family comes to Milestone. They don't do church like what we do with coffee and rock bands. They're like, we didn't bring coffee in our church and we definitely didn't have a rock band. So it was a little intimidating. And they're like, well, but their family wouldn't take no for an answer. And they brought them. And Nancy was so excited about this. She was telling me, she's like, you won't believe this, Pastor Jeff. I'm like, tell me more. She was convincing me of this. She's like telling me like I didn't know. She says, when you pull on the property, then you can flash your lights. And they're small walkie-talkie and they help people get a park and then they serve them. I'm like, really? I didn't know. I'm going to try that next weekend, Nancy. She goes, well, you can do it because we were there this weekend and we've been at Milestone 2.5 years ago and we were overwhelmed by the generosity of people. And this weekend, me and my daughter were pulling in and I saw some people ahead of us. They were flashing their lights and I told her, I said, see there? They're going to help them. They're going to get in and do that. She said, Pastor Jeff, it's still going on. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. And she's just excited and she goes, well, then we met all these loving people and then we were hearing the word preached and then one week we encountered Jesus. And Nancy said our lives were transformed and me and my daughter got water baptized and we got in the grow track, but Tony was still kind of stepped back a little. He had a little bit of intellectual barriers and he was kind of watching, but God had his number. And one service, he comes in the service and Pastor Steve Chestnut, our Keller campus pastor, walked by him and he said, I felt like God spoke to me and said, today's his day. Today he's going to get saved. So to corroborate his story, he walked to Pastor Jed. Pastor Jed was preaching that weekend. He went up to him, he said, I walked by this guy, Tony, you may not know him. They've been journeying, his family. And he told Jed, he said, God told me he's getting saved this weekend. So no pressure. But like when you give the gospel, no pressure. It's just heaven or hell, Jed. Just make sure you do it good. But you know what happened? Steve, probably not supposed to do this because we say nobody looking around, every head bowed, every eye closed. But Steve had his eyes open. And from the front row, shining back, Steve took his phone because during the gospel presentation, Tony raised his hand and accepted Christ. And Tony was telling me, he said, Pastor Jeff, I've never met you. I've been here 2.5 years. Our lives are transformed. Our lives are changed. We didn't know this Jesus. And we call back to Chicago. If you're watching online, Chicago, their friends, they go, we tell them they don't believe that we're a part of this environment where our friends are getting saved, where single moms are getting help, where Jesus is moving. They said, they don't believe us, but we've been transformed. I'm telling you, friends, there's a personal Jesus who's still on the move today, transforming people's lives. I'm going to invite Betsy to the platform. I'm going to ask you, unless it's an emergency, to not move around. We're going to close the service, but I'm going to ask Betsy to come. I'm going to ask you to stand on your feet. Once again, we're closing, but everybody just stay with me for a moment. Every campus watching right now. The final thing I said is it ignites passion. Did our hearts not burn within us when he explained the scriptures to us? Some of you have never had that flame burning on the inside of you. Some of you have had it, but you've lost it. In fact, while Betsy's getting ready, I just want you to bow your heads for a moment. Maybe there's somebody like Tony. Maybe there's somebody like Griffin. Maybe somebody like Braden, where right now, today's the day where you're like, I've tried everything else. Jesus, I give you my life. You just need to say, I surrender to you, Jesus. I believe you died on that cross and made a payment for my sin. Just tell him. And I believe you arose from the dead, just like we talked about this weekend. I make you my Jesus. I receive you today as my Lord and Savior. Come into my life and change me. If you prayed that prayer, I'm going to ask you to let us know. Come to our grow track. Come forward at the end of the service so we can help you in your journey. But I want all the rest of us to look up here. And Betsy, I want you to lead us for a moment. I want to give you a gift as we close our service, just to be in the presence of God. You're going to go into your week. You've got activities. You got things on the calendar. You got kids. But really, at the end of the day, why do we come to church? To be close to God. So that we can ignite something there that could carry you into your week. Let's just worship him for just a minute, because Jesus wants to be close to you.
When I think about this, I just think back to when I first came to know the Lord. And he did that for me. I I remember being in my room and just opening the Word and God just revealing Himself. And it was His love. It was His love through His Word that changed my life. I didn't have any music to listen to. I didn't have any Christian influences other than that Word, and He revealed it to me. But these next couple of songs are just songs that really impacted me in my early walk with Jesus, and it was just this is kind of like a remembrance for me. This is the air I breathe, and this is the air I breathe. Your holy presence living in me. This is my daily bread. This is my daily bread. Your very word spoken to me, and I'm desperate for you, and I'm lost without you, oh Lord, and I'm desperate for you, oh Jesus, and I'm lost without you. 'Cause you're all I want. You're all I've ever needed. You're all I want. Help me know you are near. Sing that out to Him. You're all I want. You and only you. You're all I've ever needed. You're all I want. Help me know you are near. Help me know you are near. Help me know you are near.
Lord Jesus, we thank you that you are near to us. I pray that every person under the sound of my voice, Lord, that you'd be very real to them. Lord, you would show up, ignite our passion, Lord, for you. Rekindle, stir in us, Lord, that relationship and that fire of passion that comes from being close to you. Lord, we thank you today that you are near and you walk with us and you're an experiential Jesus in Jesus' name.